Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Chin, and this is the story of how my family learned that sometimes the biggest impact comes from the most unexpected places. In the Chin family, success had a very specific definition. My older sister, Emily, was the CEO of Metropolitan Health Group, running their chain of luxury private hospitals. My younger brother, Michael, was a renowned plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills, catering to celebrities. Both lived in mansions, drove exotic cars, and represented everything our parents valued: prestige, wealth, and status. Me? I worked as a primary care physician in a small-town clinic in rural Pennsylvania. Or at least, that's what my family thought was my only role in healthcare. What a waste. Mom would sigh during our rare family gatherings. Sarah was top of her class at Johns Hopkins. Now she's treating colds and flu in some backwater town. What they didn't know was that while they chased prestigious titles and wealthy patients, I was quietly building a healthcare revolution. My small-town clinic was actually the testing ground for an innovative healthcare management system I'd developed, one that would transform medical care delivery across America. It started 8 years ago after my residency. While Emily and Michael pursued high-profile medical careers, I saw something different: the broken healthcare system and the opportunity to fix it. A rural clinic? Dad had scoffed when I took the job. With your credentials, you could be running a department at any major hospital. I smiled and kept quiet, because while they thought I was just treating common ailments and writing prescriptions, I was gathering data and developing solutions. My clinic became a laboratory for testing new healthcare delivery models, integrating telemedicine, and creating AI-driven diagnostic tools that would revolutionize patient care. The system I created, Health Connect, could optimize everything from patient scheduling to treatment protocols, making quality healthcare both more accessible and more affordable. While my family bragged about their exclusive medical practices at charity galas, I was quietly acquiring struggling hospitals and clinics through my company, Heartland Healthcare Solutions. I lived modestly despite my growing success, staying in a small house near my clinic and driving a practical SUV. Not because I had to, but because I believed healthcare leadership should be about service, not status. The turning point came at our family's annual reunion at the Chin estate. Emily had just acquired another luxury hospital for Metropolitan Health, and the family gathered to celebrate her visionary leadership. I arrived straight from my clinic, still wearing scrubs under my coat. Emily's face twisted in disapproval as soon as she saw me. "Oh, Sarah," she sighed, smoothing her designer dress. "Couldn't you at least pretend to be successful for one day?" Michael arrived next with his wife Jennifer, both looking like they'd stepped off a magazine cover. "Hey, country doctor, still treating chicken pox and scraped knees?" I took my seat quietly at the far end of the table. The community needs good health care. Dad raised his glass, beaming at Emily. "To my brilliant daughter, building the future of healthcare. Now that's what a Chin should be." Emily preened under the attention. "Actually, I have more news. Metropolitan Health is planning a major expansion. We're acquiring several regional hospitals to create the largest private healthcare network in the Northeast." I sipped my water to hide my smile. They had no idea that Heartland Healthcare, my company, already owned most of those regional hospitals. The major expansion would have to go through me. Speaking of healthcare, Michael smirked. "I just opened my 4th plastic surgery center. Made 7 figures last month alone. What about you, Sarah? Still making pennies with your Medicare patients?" Mom shook her head sadly. "I just don't understand it. We gave you all the same opportunities. Let's be honest, Emily declared, tapping her glass for attention. "We're here to celebrate excellence in medicine." "Sarah." She looked at me with practiced pity. "Maybe it's better if you go. This kind of achievement is clearly beyond your aspirations." The room fell silent. Dad nodded in agreement while Mom studied her plate. "Emily's right," Dad said firmly. "This celebration is for those who truly understand success in medicine. Sarah, perhaps it's best if you leave. We wouldn't want to make you feel inadequate." I looked around the table at my family. Emily's smug smile, Michael's barely concealed contempt, Mom's embarrassed avoidance, Dad's dismissive wave. Slowly, I stood up, placing my napkin beside my untouched plate. "Thank you for making your feelings clear," I said quietly. "Enjoy your celebration." As I walked to my SUV, I pulled out my phone and sent 4 emails that would shake the foundations of their medical empire. Tomorrow morning, the Chen family would learn exactly what kind of small-town doctor they'd just humiliated. And the future of healthcare would never be the same. The next morning dawned crisp and cool as I parked my SUV in front of Metropolitan Health's corporate headquarters. Emily's crisis meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m., a meeting she didn't yet know I would be attending. I watched from the lobby as my family arrived one by one, their faces strained. Emily rushed in first, her perfect composure cracking as she barked orders into her phone. Michael arrived next, having cut short his celebrity consultations to handle what he'd been told was a family emergency. Mom and Dad came last, clutching the urgent messages they'd received about Metropolitan Health's future. "What's going on?" Michael demanded when he saw Emily. "I had to reschedule Kardashians for this." Emily's hands trembled as she checked her tablet. "All our acquisition deals are frozen. Every regional hospital we were targeting suddenly pulled out. And our existing partners are talking about terminating contracts." "That's impossible," Dad protested. "Those deals were locked in." I stepped out of the elevator, still wearing my small-town doctor's white coat. Actually, they weren't. "Sarah?" Mom's eyes widened. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the board meeting," I replied calmly. "Shall we head up?" "Board meeting?" Emily's laugh was brittle. "This is a private executive session. You need to leave." I smiled, sliding my ID card through the executive floor security scanner. It turned green immediately. "After you," I gestured as the doors opened. The confusion on their faces turned to shock as we entered the boardroom. My executive team from Heartland Healthcare was already seated, along with representatives from every major hospital group in the region. "What is this?" Emily demanded. "This," I said, taking my place at the head of the table, "is where we discuss the future of healthcare in this region and your role in it." I clicked a remote, bringing up Heartland Healthcare's portfolio on the screen. While you were building luxury hospitals for the wealthy, I was creating something else, a healthcare network that serves everyone. That's impossible," Michael stammered, staring at the numbers. "Heartland Healthcare currently owns or manages 217 hospitals and clinics across the country," I continued. "That small-town clinic where I work? It's our innovation hub, where we perfect the healthcare delivery systems now used in facilities serving over 20 million patients annually." Emily collapsed into a chair, her face ashen. "The regional hospitals? They're all yours." "Through various subsidiaries, yes, including the ones you were planning to acquire." I pulled up more slides showing our technology platforms and patient care metrics. Health Connect, our proprietary management system, has reduced costs by 40% while improving patient outcomes by 60%. Numbers that Metropolitan Health has never come close to achieving. "But you're just a small-town doctor," Dad whispered. "I am a doctor," I corrected him. "One who saw that healthcare needed to change. While you were all chasing prestige, I was building a system that makes quality care accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy." "So what now?" Emily's voice was small. "You're going to destroy Metropolitan Health." I stood up, walking to the window overlooking the city. "That depends on you. Metropolitan Health has good facilities, but poor management. You chase profits while ignoring community needs. That changes today." Over the next hour, I outlined two options. Either Metropolitan Health would be absorbed into Heartland Healthcare, with Emily and Michael taking reduced roles under proper supervision, or they could compete against us and lose everything within 6 months. "Why didn't you tell us?" Mom asked, tears in her eyes. "Would you have listened?" I replied gently. "Or would you have tried to turn it into another luxury brand for the elite?" The next 6 months transformed not just Metropolitan Health, but our entire family. Emily learned to measure success in lives improved rather than profits earned. Michael started offering reconstructive surgery to trauma victims alongside his celebrity clients. And my parents, they finally came to visit my clinic, watching as I treated patients from all walks of life. "Now we understand," Dad said quietly, observing the efficient, caring environment we created. "You can think smaller. You thought bigger than any of us." 1 year later, we gathered for another family reunion. This time, when success was discussed, it wasn't about profit margins or celebrity clients. It was about lives saved, communities served, and healthcare transformed. I still work at my small-town clinic 3 days a week. Still live in my modest house. Still drive my practical SUV. But now, when my family talks about healthcare, no one mocks rural medicine anymore. Instead, they ask how they can help make quality healthcare more accessible to everyone. Because sometimes, the quiet ones, the ones dismissed as small time, are the ones changing the world, while others are too busy counting their money to notice. And sometimes the best revenge isn't proving others wrong. It's showing them a better way to be right. That's not just good medicine. That's good humanity. And in the end, that's worth more than all the luxury hospitals in the world.
The office holiday party at Turner & Associates was in full swing when I heard my name mentioned across the room. Being the only part-time, remote employee in a company of dedicated office warriors made me an easy target for water cooler gossip. Tonight was no different. "There's Emily Chen, our mysterious remote worker," Brad from sales announced loudly, his voice carrying over the holiday music, finally gracing us with her presence in the real world. I smiled politely, clutching my glass of sparkling water. After 3 years of working as a part-time data analyst for Turner & Associates, I'd grown used to the subtle digs about my work arrangement. What they saw as a cushy deal was actually just one small piece of a much bigger picture, one they couldn't even begin to imagine. Emily, Diana Turner, the CEO's wife, swooped in with her usual air of concerned condescension. "We so rarely see you. James keeps saying you should really consider coming back to the office full-time. Your talents are being wasted on this. What exactly do you do all day on that laptop?" Before I could answer, James Turner himself appeared, drink in hand. At 55, he ran the mid-sized consulting firm like it was still 1995, believing real work could only be done under fluorescent lights in a proper office. "Ah, Emily," he said, giving me that familiar look of disapproval. "Just talking about you with the board yesterday. Don't you think it's time you got serious about your career? You're what, 32 now? Time to stop playing with remote work and take on some real responsibility." I thought about the 3 video calls I'd had that morning with my actual company's international offices, Singapore, London, and Dubai. About the $150 million merger I'd approved just before driving to this party. About Chen Global Investments, the firm I built from the ground up over the past decade, now managing over $2 billion in assets. I appreciate your concern, Mr. Turner, I said mildly, but my current arrangement works well for me. Brad snorted into his drink. Sure it does. 20 hours a week, hiding behind a laptop. Living the dream, right? I checked my watch, a subtle Patek Philippe that cost more than Brad's annual salary. My real company's Asia-Pacific markets would be opening soon. Actually, I should be heading out. See? James Turner gestured with his drink. This is exactly what I mean. No commitment to the team. No drive for success. Emily, your parents didn't immigrate here and work their fingers to the bone for you to become some sort of digital nomad. The mention of my parents made my jaw tighten. He had no idea that my remote work had allowed me to buy them a beachfront retirement villa in California, or that my father now spent his days playing golf instead of running the small grocery store that had funded my education. You're absolutely right, Mr. Turner, I said, keeping my voice level. My parents sacrificed everything for my success. That's why I'm so careful about how I spend my time and energy. Deanna patted my arm sympathetically. Well, when you're ready to join the real business world, James would be happy to mentor you. Wouldn't you, dear? James nodded magnanimously. Of course. Emily has potential. She just needs proper guidance. You know, Turner and Associates is actually looking to expand next year. Major investments, new markets, could be a good opportunity for someone willing to commit fully. I knew about their expansion plans. My investment firm had received their pitch deck last week through 3 different channels. They were desperately seeking funding, though they didn't know it was my signature they needed. That sounds interesting, I said. I hope you find the right investors. Oh, we will, James assured me. We're in talks with several major firms. Chen Global Investments is at the top of our list. They're the rising star in the Asian market, though I doubt you'd know about them, given your limited business exposure. I almost choked on my water. If he only knew that the Chen he'd been trying to get a meeting with for the past month was standing right in front of him, enduring his condescension. My phone buzzed, a real alert this time. One of our major investments in Singapore needed immediate attention. I really should go, I said, gathering my things. Probably has to check her Instagram followers, Brad stage whispered, earning chuckles from nearby colleagues. I was nearly to the door when James called out, Emily, think about what I said. You can't hide behind that laptop forever. Success requires showing up in the real world. If he only knew how right he was, just not in the way he imagined. The next morning in my real office, a penthouse suite overlooking the city, I reviewed Turner and Associates' investment proposal with my team. They're actually not bad numbers, Michael, my chief analyst, admitted. Their expansion plan is solid. They just need capital. And better management, Lisa, my COO, added. James Turner's old-school approach is holding them back. They could triple their revenue with proper modernization. I leaned back in my chair, thinking about James's comments at the party, about all the subtle and not-so-subtle digs over the years. Set up the meeting, I decided. But not with Turner. I want to talk to their board first. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you want to reveal yourself? You've kept your connection to Turner and Associates quiet for a reason. She was right. I'd taken the part-time position 3 years ago as market research, wanting to understand the mid-level consulting industry from the inside. Turner and Associates had been the perfect case study, a traditional firm struggling to adapt to modern business realities. It's time, I said. Besides, their board meeting next week should be entertaining. That afternoon, I received an urgent email from James Turner himself, addressed to my Chen Global account. Dear Ms. Chen, we're thrilled to have captured your firm's interest. Our board would be honored to meet with you or your representatives next week to discuss investment opportunities. Best regards, James Turner, CEO, Turner and Associates. I forwarded it to Lisa with a simple note. Confirm the meeting. And Lisa, make sure it's in their main boardroom. I want James Turner to be very clear about exactly who he's been underestimating. Back in my part-time analyst role, I logged into Turner & Associates' system and quietly began preparing the reports I present at the board meeting. reports that would show exactly how much potential the company was wasting under its current leadership. My phone buzzed with a text from Brad. "Hey Emily, saw you left the party early. Just wanted to say, if you ever want tips on moving up in the real business world, happy to mentor you. Coffee sometime?" I saved the text. It would make a nice addition to my collection of memorable moments to reflect on after next week's meeting. That evening, as I watched the sun set over the city from my office, I thought about success and perception, about how people see what they expect to see. A young woman with a laptop, not a CEO with a global investment firm. Next week, they'd see the truth. And I had a feeling their definition of real work was about to change dramatically. The morning of the board meeting, I arrived at Turner & Associates earlier than usual. Through the glass walls of my tiny part-time workspace, I could see the nervous energy rippling through the office. Everyone knew the mysterious Chen from Cheng Global Investments was coming today. "Emily," Brad practically sprinted to my desk. "You need to clear out. We're using all the conference rooms today for a major investor meeting." I looked up from my laptop, enjoying the moment. "Oh, don't worry about me. I won't be in your way." "This is serious," he insisted. "The CEO of Chen Global is coming. This could change everything for the company." "I'm counting on it," I murmured, but he was already hurrying away to spread the news. At precisely 9:55 a.m., I packed up my laptop and headed toward the executive floor. Lisa was waiting by the elevators, impeccable in a designer suit, playing her role as my assistant perfectly. "Everything ready?" I asked. She handed me a folder. "Board members are all present. James Turner has been bragging about his personal connection to you for the past hour." "Has he now?" I smiled, thinking of all his unanswered emails to my Chen Global account. "Also," Lisa added with a slight smirk, "he's apparently promised to introduce you to their brilliant young data analyst who prepared some of the reports. Says her work will show you the company's potential." I straightened my own designer suit, a far cry from the casual clothes I usually wore to my part-time role. "Well, let's not keep them waiting." The boardroom fell silent as Lisa opened the doors. 12 pairs of eyes turned to watch my entrance, including James Turner's, which quickly shifted from eager anticipation to confused recognition to dawning horror. "Good morning," I said calmly, taking my place at the head of the table. "I'm Emily Chen, CEO of Chen Global Investments. I believe you've been expecting me." The silence stretched for a long moment before exploding into chaos. Board members who had seen me around the office for years were staring open-mouthed. Diana Turner, who had slipped into the meeting hoping to network, looked like she'd swallowed her designer necklace. James Turner stood up so quickly he knocked over his water glass. This is some kind of joke. Emily is our part-time analyst. She has been conducting an in-depth market analysis of your company for the past 3 years, I finished for him. Consider it very thorough due diligence." I opened my folder and began distributing documents. "These reports, the ones you were so eager to show me." "Mr. Turner, I prepared them myself. They demonstrate both Turner & Associates' potential and its current limitations." The board chairman, Mr. Harrison, was the first to recover. "Ms. Chen, Emily, this is unprecedented. So is the opportunity I'm about to present." I nodded to Lisa, who began the presentation. Turner & Associates has strong fundamentals but is being held back by outdated practices and resistant leadership. My analysis shows potential for 300% growth within 3 years, with proper modernization and management changes. "Now wait just a minute," James Turner interrupted, his face flushed. "You can't just walk in here and—" "I can and I am," I said firmly. Chen Global Investments is prepared to offer $50 million for a controlling stake in Turner & Associates. However, our terms include immediate management restructuring and full implementation of the modernization plan outlined in Section 3 of your packets. The board members were quickly flipping through the documents, their expressions shifting from shock to interest as they saw the numbers. "These projections," Mr. Harrison said, "they're remarkable. And you developed these while working here part-time?" "Among other things," I replied. "I've also documented every instance of resistance to technological advancement, every dismissed suggestion for remote work options, and every missed opportunity due to outdated business practices." I turned to James Turner, who had sunk back into his chair. "You told me success requires showing up in the real world." "I agree. I've shown up every week for 3 years, watching you dismiss innovative ideas because they didn't fit your 1995 business model. Now I'm showing up with the capital and vision to bring this company into the modern era." Brad, who had somehow weaseled his way into the meeting, found his voice. But you're just a remote worker. How did you build a $2 billion investment firm?" I finished for him. With a laptop and an understanding of modern business realities, the same tools you've been mocking for years. The next 2 hours were intense. Board members asked sharp questions about my plans for the company. I walked them through the modernization strategy, the hybrid work model, the digital transformation that would position Turner and Associates as a leader in contemporary consulting. By lunch, the board had voted overwhelmingly to accept Chen Global's offer. James Turner sat silently as Mr. Harrison announced that his role would be transitioning to advisory status. As the board members filed out, many stopping to shake my hand and laugh awkwardly about past interactions, Diana Turner approached my chair. "Emily, we had no idea. All those times I offered to help you network were appreciated," I said diplomatically. "Everyone has something to teach us, even if it's what not to do." After the room cleared, Lisa handed me a stack of messages. The business press got wind of the deal. They're calling it a masterclass in modern due diligence. I smiled, remembering all the dismissive comments about my laptop lifestyle. "Schedule a press conference for tomorrow. It's time to change the narrative about remote work and success." That evening, as I packed up my small desk for the last time, Brad appeared again. "So," he said awkwardly, "about that coffee mentoring offer." "Thank you," I replied, "but I have a better idea. Report to Lisa tomorrow. She's heading up our digital transformation team. You might learn something about modern business practices." He nodded quickly and retreated. Through the glass walls, I could see people looking at their computers differently now, wondering what opportunities they might have missed while clinging to old definitions of success. 1 week later, I stood in my new office, the CEO's corner suite at Turner and Associates, soon to be rebranded as Chen Turner Global Consulting. The view was actually better than my penthouse. A knock at the door revealed James Turner, looking uncomfortable in casual business attire. "The board asked me to review your modernization proposal," he said stiffly. "I have to admit, your analysis is thorough." 3 years of observation tends to be thorough, I agreed. "Your advisory role will be crucial in maintaining client relationships during the transition." He nodded, then hesitated. "Why didn't you tell me? All those times I lectured you about success. Would you have listened?" I asked quietly, "or would you have dismissed me as just another young person who didn't understand real business?" He had the grace to look embarrassed. "I guess I learned something about real business myself." "We all did," I said. "Success doesn't look the same as it did 30 years ago. Sometimes it looks like a woman with a laptop, working from anywhere, building something bigger than a corner office." After he left, I opened my laptop, the same one that had drawn so many condescending comments, and began drafting a company-wide memo about our new flexible work policy. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Saw you in the business news. Your mother is telling everyone at the golf club that her daughter owns 2 companies now." I smiled, thinking about how far we come from that small grocery store. Success isn't always visible to others, but that doesn't make it any less real. Looking out over the city, I thought about all the other remote workers out there, building empires from their laptops while others underestimate them. Maybe my story would help change some minds about what success looks like in the modern world. After all, the real satisfaction isn't in proving others wrong. It's in proving yourself right, one quiet victory at a time. The aroma of garlic and ginger filled the kitchen as I chopped vegetables for prep, each knife stroke precise and measured. Just like Papa taught me. The familiar rhythm usually calmed my nerves, but today my hands shook slightly as I worked. I'm Diana Liu, owner of Golden Pearl, or what's left of it. The Chinese fusion restaurant my parents built from nothing, the place where I learned to walk between prep tables, where Papa taught me every secret of his Michelin-starred cuisine. Now half our tables sat empty most nights, thanks to the sleek new restaurant next door, Pearl and Jade, run by my ex-business partners, using my family's recipes. Deanna, my sous chef, Mike, stuck his head through the kitchen door. They're doing it again. I set down my knife and walked to the front window. Sure enough, Jason and Melissa stood outside their restaurant's entrance, greeting our potential customers, and directing them away from Golden Pearl. Health code violations, I heard Jason say clearly, his voice carrying through the evening air. Shame about the Liu place. Used to be good, but you know how these family restaurants let things slip. My jaw clenched. 6 months ago, Jason and Melissa had been my partners, helping modernize Golden Pearl after Papa's stroke forced him to retire. They'd handled the business side while I ran the kitchen, maintaining Papa's high standards while adding my own contemporary twists. Then they'd suggested splitting the business. It's nothing personal, Melissa had said, her smile never reaching her eyes. We just think the restaurant needs updating, a fresh approach, you understand. What I hadn't understood was that they'd already leased the space next door. Hadn't known they'd copied Papa's recipe book during late-night inventory checks. Hadn't realized they'd been slowly poisoning our reputation while planning their own venture. The betrayal still burned worse than overheated chili oil. Don't let them get to you, Mike said quietly. He'd stayed loyal when half our staff jumped ship to Pearl and Jade, drawn by promises of higher wages and profit sharing. We've got a full prep list for tonight. I nodded, heading back to my station, but the damage was already spreading through the neighborhood. Whispered rumors about food safety, subtle hints that Golden Pearl's best days were behind it, Instagram posts comparing the traditional, red, outdated decor of our place to Pearl and Jade's sleek modern aesthetic. Our revenue had dropped 40% in 3 months. Deanna? This time it was Amy, our hostess. Table 12 wants to speak to the owner. I wiped my hands and went out to the dining room. An elderly couple sat at the table, barely touched plates in front of them. Is something wrong with the food? I asked, though I already knew what was coming. It's not like we remember, the woman said apologetically. We've been coming here for 20 years, but lately, she gestured at her husband's Kung Pao chicken. The sauce isn't right, too bland. My heart sank. It was Papa's exact recipe, the one that had earned him his first Michelin star. But now that same recipe was being served next door, claimed as an original creation by our competitors. We heard the new place is good, the husband added kindly. Maybe it's time to. Thank you for your feedback, I cut him off politely. Your meal is on the house tonight. Back in the kitchen, I gripped the edge of my prep station, knuckles white. We'd lost 3 more regular customers, people who'd watched me grow up, who'd celebrated birthdays and anniversaries at our tables. Day? Mike's voice was gentle. Maybe we should call your father? No, the word came out sharper than intended. Papa had suffered his stroke right after Jason and Melissa joined the business. The doctors said stress was a factor. I wouldn't burden him with this. Besides, what could he do? At 68, barely recovered, his hands still trembled too much to hold a walk. His speech came slowly now, though his mind remained sharp enough to feel the shame of watching his life's work crumble. The dinner service dragged on, each empty table a reminder of our declining fortune. Through the windows, I could see Pearl and Jade packed with diners, their sleek interior glowing with carefully curated ambience. After closing, I sat in Papa's old office, reviewing our books. At this rate, we had maybe 3 months before we'd have to close. All our savings had gone into renovations last year, renovations Jason and Melissa had insisted on, running up costs they knew we couldn't easily repay. A knock on the door startled me. Mike stood there, still in his chef whites, holding a newspaper. You need to see this, he said, placing it on my desk. The headline jumped out immediately. CTANONCSINAUGUILRISTY anti-wiki. Tell Predixius 2GDG best of day 1 Taiwanin. I scanned the article. 50 restaurants would participate in a week-long celebration of local cuisine. Special menus, exclusive events, and most importantly, reviews from the city's top food critics. The kind of exposure that could make or break a restaurant. Below the main article was a smaller piece. Pearl and Jade to showcase revolutionary Chinese fusion during Restaurant Week. The quote from Jason made my blood boil. We're bringing Chinese cuisine into the modern era, moving beyond traditional limitations to create something truly special. Moving beyond traditional limitations, they were serving Papa's recipes with fancy plating and inflated prices. I was about to crumple the paper when another detail caught my eye. The judges' panel would include Victor Chen, the legendary food critic whose review had earned Papa his Michelin star 20 years ago. Slowly, I smoothed the paper back out. An idea was forming, dangerous, risky, but possibly our only chance. "Mike," I said quietly, "remember those experimental dishes we were working on? The ones that combine Papa's techniques with modern molecular gastronomy?" He nodded. "We've been developing them in our off hours, never quite finding the right moment to add them to the menu. I think it's time to perfect them." I pulled out my phone, scrolling through contacts until I found the number I needed. "And I need to make a call." "To who?" I smiled for the first time in weeks. "An old friend who owes Papa a favor. Someone who might help us get into Restaurant Week and show everyone what real innovation tastes like." The next morning, I arrived at Golden Pearl before dawn. In my bag was Papa's real recipe book, not the decoy Jason and Melissa had copied, but the true family treasures, recipes perfected over 3 generations, with notes in my grandfather's handwriting, Papa's careful modifications, and my own recent additions. Time to remind everyone why Golden Pearl earned that Michelin star. And maybe, just maybe, serve up a dish best served cold. Restaurant Week was 3 days away, and Golden Pearl's kitchen hummed with energy. The scent of experimental sauces and innovative preparations filled the air as my team worked to perfect our special menu. "The molecular pearls of soy sauce are ready," Mike called out, carefully lifting a tray of perfectly spherical liquid caviar we created using sodium alginate. When burst, they'd release Papa's secret soy blend, a modern presentation of ancient flavors. "Good. Add them to the deconstructed xiaolongbao." I was bent over my own station, carefully arranging paper-thin slices of Wagyu beef into the shape of a blooming lotus flower. Each petal would be torch-seared tableside, releasing the complex marinade we'd spent weeks perfecting. The door chimed, and Amy's voice drifted back. "I'm sorry, we're closed for prep. Deanna, are you here?" My hands froze. That voice. Papa stood in the doorway, leaning on his cane. His face was drawn with concern. "Someone showed me this." He held up a copy of the local paper, Pearl and Jade's Restaurant Week announcement. "Why didn't you tell me?" I quickly wiped my hands. "You don't need to worry about. I'm your father. Worrying is my job." He made his way to my prep station, examining the dishes in progress. His right hand trembled slightly as he reached for a spoon, but his eyes were sharp as ever. "Tell me everything." So I did. The betrayal, the stolen recipes, the sabotage campaign. With each detail, his face grew darker. "These people," he said finally, "they think recipes are just instructions, lists of ingredients. They don't understand." He picked up the family recipe book I'd been consulting. "Every dish here has a story. Your grandmother created this sauce while hiding from the Cultural Revolution. I perfected this marinade the night you were born. Couldn't sleep, so I cooked until dawn." His fingers traced the handwritten notes. "Now you add your own stories." "But they," he gestured toward Pearl and Jade. "They have no stories, no soul." "They have our customers," I said quietly. "For now." He smiled. The first real smile I'd seen from him since his stroke. "But I have an idea." The next hour was like stepping back in time. Papa couldn't cook anymore, but his mind was still a treasury of culinary knowledge. Together, we refined my experimental dishes, adding subtle touches that elevated them from impressive to extraordinary. "The trick," he said, adjusting the spices in my lotus beef marinade, "is to give them something they can copy, and something they can't." I understood. Anyone could write down a recipe, but the soul of a dish, that came from somewhere deeper. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Word spread that Golden Pearl would participate in Restaurant Week, despite Pearl and Jade's attempts to have us excluded. Their latest rumor suggested we'd bribed our way in. If they only knew. The night before Restaurant Week began, I made one final call. "Everything's ready. All set," my contact confirmed. "The critics have their schedules. Chen will be there." I hung up and gathered my staff. "Tomorrow, we show them what Golden Pearl is really made of." Restaurant Week opened with a bang. Pearl and Jade unveiled their menu with typical fanfare, press releases, social media blitz, influencer previews. Their offerings were familiar, our traditional recipes dressed up with fancy plating and pretentious descriptions. Golden Pearl took a different approach. No announcements, no previews. Just a simple sign. Special tasting menu. Limited seating. The first critic arrived Tuesday night. She tried to be discreet, but we knew who she was. Sarah Chin, Victor's daughter and a respected reviewer in her own right. She ordered our tasting menu and watched with widening eyes as each course arrived. First, the lotus beef, blooming under the torch's flame. Then Xiao Long Bao reimagined. The molecular soy pearls bursting with familiar flavors in an entirely new way. Each dish combined Papa's classic techniques with modern innovations that enhanced rather than masked the original brilliance. She stayed for 3 hours, taking notes between bites. Her review dropped the next morning. Golden Pearl proves innovation doesn't mean abandoning tradition. It means building on it with respect and understanding. Each dish tells a story, each bite reveals layers of meaning and memory. This isn't just dinner, it's edible art with a soul. The article went viral. Our phones started ringing. But we were saving most tables for the remaining critics. Jason and Melissa noticed the increased activity. They sent spies, servers pretending to be customers, trying to decode our new dishes. But as Papa had said, some things can't be copied. Thursday night, Victor Chen himself arrived. I watched through the kitchen window as he was seated, older now than when he first reviewed us, but still commanding respect with his presence. "Ready?" Mike asked as we plated the first course. I nodded, adding a final touch to the dish that had taken us weeks to perfect. Papa's signature Hong Shao Ru, red braised pork belly, reimagined as delicate cubes of melt-in-your-mouth meat, each glazed with a different intensity of sauce. Arranged in a spiral pattern that told the story of the dish's evolution through 3 generations of our family. As each course went out, I could see Chen taking careful notes. His expression remained neutral professional. Until the final dish arrived, my tribute to Papa's original Michelin-starred creation. It looked nothing like the original, but one bite and his eyes widened. There it was, the exact flavor that had earned that star, transformed into a completely new presentation. He asked to speak with me. "That last dish," he said carefully, "I remember it. 20 years ago. But they're serving something very similar next door." I placed Papa's recipe book on his table, open to a specific page. "You mean this recipe? The one you reviewed 20 years ago?" He examined the page, the original handwritten recipe, with decades of notes and refinements. Then he looked at the date clearly marked at the top. "I see." His voice was quiet but carried weight. "And next door? They're serving an interpretation." I chose my words carefully. "From a copy of our recipe, one they obtained while working here. Before opening their own restaurant?" "Exactly." He made a final note, then stood. "Thank you for an enlightening evening." His review appeared in Sunday's paper, the final day of Restaurant Week. The headline said it all. Tale of Two Restaurants, Innovation versus Imitation. The article was brutal in its elegance. Without directly accusing Pearl and Jade of theft, it traced the lineage of several dishes to Golden Pearl's original creations. It praised our new menu as evolution with respect, while dismissing their offerings as superficial adaptations of superior originals. The killing blow came in the final paragraph. "In this tale of two restaurants, one shows us the future of Chinese cuisine, a future built on understanding and honoring the past. The other offers only shadows of greatness, copies without soul. Choose wisely." The effect was immediate. Our phones rang nonstop. Reservations poured in. Food bloggers dissected Chen's review, connecting the dots about recipe theft and business ethics. Pearl and Jade's tables emptied. Their influencer friends went quiet. Their carefully crafted image crumbled under the weight of authenticity. 2 weeks later, I arrived at Golden Pearl to find a fancy envelope in our mail. Inside was a letter from the Michelin Guide. They would be sending reviewers in the coming months. That evening, as service wound down, I heard the door chime. Jason stood there, looking uncomfortable. "We're closing," I said flatly. "Diana, please, our bookings are down 70%. We can't survive like this. Maybe we could work something out. A partnership." Like last time, I smiled. "No, thank you, but I'm sure you'll land on your feet. I hear there's a growing market for fast food fusion." He left, shoulders slumped. Through the window, I watched him trudge back to Pearl and Jade, where Melissa waited anxiously. They sold the restaurant 2 months later. The space became a yoga studio. Golden Pearl flourished. We maintained our traditional menu but added a special innovation night featuring our experimental dishes. The waiting list stretched to months. Papa started coming by more often, sitting at his old table, watching with pride as we served both old favorites and new creations. His hands still trembled, but his smile was strong and sure. One quiet afternoon, he called me over. "You know why their food never tasted quite right?" I shook my head. "Because recipes are like family stories," he said, patting the old recipe book. "You can steal the words, but not the love that seasons them." He was right, of course. You can copy a recipe, but you can't copy generations of experience, of tradition, of family pride passed down through countless meals. That's the real secret ingredient, the one that can never be stolen. Now when people ask about Pearl and Jade, I just smile and serve them something special. Something that tells our story in every bite. Because the best revenge doesn't need words. It just needs to be served at the perfect temperature, with a side of justice and a garnish of truth, just like Papa taught me.